Good evening, everyone. So we are pleased to welcome David Mason this evening. So David is a retired professor of Korean cultural tourism who spent 18 years teaching at universities in Seoul and who has devoted decades to the study of Korea's mountain traditions, particularly their religious significance and associated pilgrimage practices. Earlier in his career, he served as a consultant to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, contributing to the development of the well-known Temple Stay program. And this followed many years in academic research and teaching in Seoul. So he is the author of 10 books on Korean culture and tourism, including Spirit of the Mountains, Korea's Sanshin and Traditions of Mountain Worship, the 1997 Lonely Planet Korea Guide, and the official Encyclopedia of Korean Buddhism. So he has been a member of the RES for over 35 years, and this is his, 18th lecture? That's what I believe. I think this is his 18th lecture with us. So after the lecture, there will be time for questions. So would you please welcome David Mason.
Thank you, Matt. Maybe, can you reduce the front lights? Is there a way to turn off front lights? Would be better.
Well, that's not working. So what's he saying?
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good. Get our clicker working. You got to push hard. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. It's really good to see you. And I welcome everyone who's watching online on Zoom and such and future YouTube video. Welcome tonight. We're going to talk about this topic. This is excerpts from a new book that I've been writing for 3 years and is just about ready for publication. I originally intended to have published books available to show you and sell you right at this event, but that didn't happen. It may be just an ebook, as it turns out, but this is volume 1, The Dragons of Korea. And then volume 2, Monarchs of the Dragons. And what I say tonight is about 3% of the book. It's a huge, gigantic thing of 900 pages in total. The subject of dragons in Korea is just a gigantic subject, and I didn't know what I was getting into when I started 3 years ago to write this book. If I realized, I never would have started, I suppose, but it's like that. Okay, now I'd like to say this for a full introduction to dragons East and West, Korean dragons, and their roles in Korean Buddhist temples, which I'm not going to repeat tonight. No time. See my previous RAS lecture that I did in 2017, also the one at Dongguk University, basically the same lecture. They're on my YouTube channel. In a situation like this, feel free to use your phone and take a photo of this information that you might want to remember. As I'm going to move through these slides pretty quickly, any information you want to remember, feel free to take photos, and those of you at home, take screenshots. Okay. The dragons of East Asia, Yong. And it's one of the very few Chinese character words in Korea that is pronounced 2 different ways, or spelling 2 different ways officially, depending on where it is in the syllable within the phrase itself, Yong or Ryong, such, but same Chinese character, a very, very ancient Chinese character going right back to the beginnings of their language. Okay. Now, over here in the Far East, dragons are powerful and beneficial. This is very different from the Western image of dragons that I covered in the previous lecture, where they're kind of evil here, but they are good. Now, my question I want to bring up tonight, just as an interesting question, can the fierce primordial energy of dragons relate to the peaceful, vegan, compassionate, psychological values of Buddhism? It turns out dragons and the king of the dragons are both closely associated with the Bodhisattva of Compassion. Love, sympathy, empathy, mercy. And that might seem curious. I mean, dragons don't seem that way, do they? Doesn't seem quite such a loving animal. So let's explore how that happened. Now, in general, the dragons of East Asia got an almost unlimited range of supernatural powers, and they can be benevolent, wise, and just, with justice, such fairness, such they are seen as heavenly powers that do good. Such they are certainly associated since ancient times in China with royalty, with government authority, the authority of heaven, the mandate of heaven, and emperors of China and local kings and such. Kings of Korea have always worn dragons as part of their insignia, and very much on a dragon throne with dragon robes. This is Taizhou Songye, who founded the Joseon dynasty, one of his official portraits. Yes. Now, this is the oldest Korean dragon that we have, an image, I mean, a painting, any kind of painting or statue, the very oldest from like 300-400 AD in a North Korean tomb, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's been reproduced in the National Museum of Korea. There's a special room about this tomb with the 5 different animals depicted, and that's where I got this photo. Such, and I like to point out the Dongmyo Shrine here in Seoul, one of my favorite really old antiques. Something that seems about 400 years old and very faded, but still distinct image of a dragon. And Gyeongbokgung, what used to be above the throne in the king's office hall. Not the main throne hall, but the office hall where the king sat every day. They removed this a few years ago, took it down when they refurbished. But I enjoyed this for decades. It was a gigantic and great painting. Such happy dragons, frolicking and playing in the clouds. This was a good feature of the palace. Too bad it's gone. You're very well familiar with dragons on Korean Joseon Baekja pottery and everywhere else among the nobility as well as royalty of Korea, dragon images. Now, they're still associated with heavenly and royal powers. You see dragons all over the palace thing and the palace museums, but more commonly used as water spirits. And that old tradition of dragons associated with the movement of water comes from China, but has become very strong in Korea, kind of extra strong in this culture. Now, I covered this in previous lecture, but just quickly, the hydrological cycle, the movement of water from ocean to land and then streams and rivers and back to ocean is what keeps us alive. It's what allows animal life on this planet and allows our civilizations. If the water stops, we die. And in extended droughts, we know that. Yes, and such. And the dragons are symbol of this whole cycle of the water keep moving from ocean to clouds, to mountains, to rivers, streams, back to ocean. waterfalls and such. Dragons are the dynamic factor that causes water to move. This is before people had science, before we knew about gravity and flow dynamics and such. They thought that water's moving because there's dragons in it. The clouds in the sky keep changing their shape and moving around. There's dragons up there. We just can't see them. Only the wise and enlightened people can see them. When there's a waterfall, there's waves on the ocean or whatever, dragons are making that happen, causing that energy, that circulation. And if they don't, as you know, with water, if water stops moving very quickly, in 24 hours, it gets dead. Like it's not good to drink it. Something just water sitting out in a pond or at a stream or whatever, water that's stagnant dies. These are then rain-bringing dragons, dragons in the clouds, causing the weather, basically. Shamanic style painting from my old mentor, DaeHanYong, about rain-bringing dragons, rain causing. Okay. River origins, then. There are great shrines at the beginning of each river of Korea and at key places along the rivers, such as intersections and such, key shrines for dragon spirits and the Dragon-King allowed there. Many Korean folk tales include appearances of dragons as portentous and auspicious signs, including in dreams. My old friend Jeremy Seligson, it looks like he didn't make it tonight, but he's a key researcher on that, dragons in dreams. Look for his published works for that. Okay, and in Buddhist temples, very dramatically, the datjip, these fantastic arrays above the altar. Oh, yes, right. You see the dragon in the center. It's a dragon in clouds and such. This is one of the great national treasure antiques at Jikjisa. Okay. Now let us turn. Well, here's Jeremy. I just mentioned Jeremy and his work with dragons and dreams. Dreams of dragons. Hello, Jeremy. Glad you could make it. That's him. Talk to him about dreams. Okay. Now, let's get to Gwanse-eum Bosal. Now, Bodhisattva of Compassion. One of the most important deities in Korean Buddhism and most popular among 5 major bodhisattvas. I hope you know Bodhisattva, kind of like a junior Buddha, an assistant Buddha, going to be a Buddha someday, but not yet. There's 5 major Buddhas, and under them, 5 major bodhisattvas. All right, and this is a very popular one, Gwanse-eum Bosal. Original name, Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit, means the Lord who looks down upon the world, watching over the world. It doesn't mean look down on as disparaging. It means in a protective and taking care of kind of way. And figuratively means a spirit that hears all cries for assistance, sees all troubles, has sympathy and mercy for all beings, dissatisfied or in pain. Any of us is suffering in any way, any of us, all of us, in this sabasege, that's Korean term for samsara. Samsara, you might have heard the word, our secular world of suffering, this world as an ocean of suffering, the sabasege, the world of suffering. And within that, the beings, Gwanse-eum Bosal is looking and listening and can feel your pain and is ready to help. Okay, so he serves as the Bodhisattva of Compassion. And compassion here includes sympathy, empathy, platonic love, mercy, and concern for others, concern for animals and plants, concern for the world, simply is all included within compassion. Every sort of the human heart kind of positive feelings. Yes. Yes, getting back. Yes. Now, has long been commonly referred to by Koreans as Gwanum. Gwanum is the name instead of Gwanse-eum Bosal, short term Gwanum. And for the rest of this lecture, I will say Gwanum. You understand what I mean? Okay. Now, Gwanum appears in this world in a vast number of manifestations, comes to the world and appears in many different forms. In the classical scriptures, 108 different forms of this bodhisattva can be identified, that were listed, but in more modern Buddhism, in the last 1,000 years of popular Buddhism, religious Buddhism, 33. 3 is a sacred number, so 3 doubled, 33 is always 33 men signed the Korean Declaration of Independence. And as you go through Korean history and religious culture, you're going to find 33 a lot. 33 manifestations or forms described in the scriptures, sometimes depicted in temple artworks. There's a few temples that have 33 different paintings across an entire hall. Most of them are pretty rare, though. Most of them you rarely ever see. Okay. Stories of his appearance are a key part of Korea's religious teachings and folklore. There are many, many folk stories of Gwanum appearing and doing something good, or playing a kind of trick or a joke on people to show them their arrogance and stupidity and make them kind of wake up to a higher truth. Okay, and artworks of them are common to find in every Buddhist institution. Very popular bodhisattva. And so you can see the images of Gwanum everywhere. Okay. Now, in one of these 33 manifestations, he's standing atop a dragon, often on the sea or within clouds. He may also be holding a yoiju, bright or flaming wish-granting pearl, that red-colored, usually red and kind of flaming with a flame coming off of it, jewel that you've already seen in some of my images the dragons are chasing or playing around with. And this represents the yoiju, such the... now, notice I'm saying he, and this does get confusing. In China, that bodhisattva got changed to female. It's called Guanyin. They mixed it together with an ocean goddess, a young woman goddess of the East Ocean, and blended them together. Because originally in Buddhism, all the deities are male. Men, everything. And from India and through. Tibetan and Vajrayana Buddhism got lots of female deities, lots of them developed, but that's pretty radical and unorthodox. In China, there's just simply a popular demand for a female Buddhist deity. The public wanted it. And compassion, it kind of makes sense. People's image, like Mother Mary in Christianity, the idea of compassion and mercy and love and sympathy and empathy, that the people see that as female characteristics. And so they want it to be. These days, all the traditional Korean depictions of Gwanum are male. There's a mustache and such, mustache and beard if you look closely in the painting, but richly adorned, very beautiful clothing, which kind of looks feminine to us, like a kind of gown with very rich jewelry. And these days, just in the past 30 to 40 years, many Korean artists have started making it female. Making them actually putting breasts on the chest and clean skin face and really looking female. It's, again, by popular demand. People want a mother figure deity for compassion. They just want it. So it's a thing. Now, the initial meaning of this, of Gwanum standing on a dragon, is mastery of the waters. As we've said, dragons represent waters, and then Gwanum standing on a dragon is uniting the idea of compassion with the circulation and flow of waters, which keeps us alive, keeps us healthy, keeps us in good. When it goes well, the rain and the drainage of the water, when it goes well, we live well. Okay, this is a typical statue there of Gwanum manifesting on a dragon, that manifestation. That's a pretty classical image. That's right here in Seoul at Bongwonsa. Then Gangneung cities, Dongmyeonsa, there's a beautiful painting. This is a whole large painting of all 33 manifestations, and I just shot a detail of it showing this white robe Gwanum standing on a dragon as one of the 33. And you see some of the others here in the background, right? This is also right here in Seoul, down at Bongunsa in Gangnam-gu, above the main altar in the main hall. They have this carved in wood and brightly painted Gwanum on a dragon. And these are two examples for really wide paintings at Gyeongsan and in Seoul, Samgaksan, Jongnong, Gyeongguksa, and such a blue dragon, yellow dragon. Blue and yellow dragons, as I covered in previous lecture, are often a pair, paired up, with blue meaning the east and yellow meaning the west. And you often find that in architecture, like on the beams of temples or whatever. The eastern beam is a blue dragon, western beam is a yellow dragon. And in this case, I just paired them together, and Gwanum appearing on such. It doesn't seem to matter really which color of dragon Gwanum appears on. That doesn't seem to have particular significance as far as I've ever seen in this. Now, these are works by a modern artist who invited me to shoot her production. She was making 33 different paintings of that, and two of them featuring dragons on it, such as a living tradition that continues. Okay. This is two things. This is in my own neighborhood, the temple close to the building where I live, simply, and out there out in the courtyard on a yellow dragon. And that's the most important Buddhist temple in the Seoul area, Dosunsa. Samgaksan Dosunsa, they have a nice granite stone Gwanum on a dragon. So just to say, these are very common to find. And float. You'll see this coming up soon at the end of May on Buddha's birthday, the big thing downtown. You may see several cases of Gwanum on a dragon. This is at the Danoje ceremony in Gangneung, which is not even, Danoje festival is not Buddhist. It's a folk shamanic festival. It's not even Buddhist, but they have this in their parade. Why not? Okay. A deeper meaning of this comes also in a Buddhist kind of religious philosophical sense. Shows about riding on a dragon. Gwanum can cross the ocean of suffering, the sabasege, the world of suffering, can ride across it, okay? Either bringing the souls of the deceased across that ocean to Buddhist paradise, the Western heaven, either, or even deeper, more for the monks themselves to be thinking, assisting the living to attain enlightenment via grand compassion. Okay, monks all want to, diligently working to become enlightened. And there's this idea of the compassion riding on dragon, which symbolizes right up primordial energy. It just dragons are not philosophical, really, but energy, moving, writhing energy, and this riding upon compassion, riding on that energy. Without that, compassion might be stranded, unable to move, but it can move via grand compassion, helping, becoming a dynamic compassion that can help adepts reach enlightenment. Those are deeper layers of meaning to these images. Now, for the thing of Gwaneum bringing the dead souls to paradise after they to Buddhist heaven. These are very common paintings on Korean Buddhist temples. This is right here in Seoul at Bongwon-sa itself again. The dragon ship, it's called the dragon ship of wisdom across the sea of suffering. This is the ocean of Sabasege, ocean of suffering. And these are the people who have passed away, the dead souls, and they're being guided by Gwaneum, Bodhisattva of Compassion here, and in the back, Jijang, the Bodhisattva of Salvation, who oversees all the afterlife transitions. And the two of them together are guiding this dragon boat, again, using the dragon energy to cross the sea of suffering. Up close. Okay. This is an antique, the oldest painting that I know of this type, and such as at Tongdosa, still on the outside wall of one of the buildings near the entrance of the great Yangsan Tongdosa, one of Korea's greatest temples. And it's really a wonderful image and hasn't faded much in maybe a couple hundred years, still doing well. The Bodhisattva of Compassion cannot really be seen very well, but is there. Okay, and again, a more modern painting of that boat with just Bodhisattva of Compassion, no Bodhisattva of Salvation. Maybe fell off the back or didn't make it on time for this trip or something, I don't know, but there, it's just guiding in the dragon boat, and you can see it's approaching the pagodas there, the Buddhist heaven of the West, Amitabha's heaven, bringing the souls in there. Nice one. Now then, this leads the whole concept of the Buddha Hall itself as a Banya Yongsun. Banya Yongsun means the dragon ship of wisdom, the wisdom dragon ship, carrying the Pure Land worshippers to the paradise. Dragons are infusing the building, the heads in front, tails in the rear or interior of the front wall. This is why we have dragon heads on the front of temple buildings. As you frequently see when you visit a temple, right by the main signboard there, blue and yellow, east and west. Some buildings have 4 of them or 5 of them on the front, depending on how many gays there are. But this dragon head sticking out of the front of the building, and then often you'll find the beams going through the building from here to the back of the building have dragons painted on them, and there's tails either at the back of the building sometimes or on the inside, showing that the building itself is a dragon ship. And so by worshiping in that Buddhist hall, you're on the dragon ship, being conveyed already across the sea of suffering. It's a way towards your enlightenment, your liberation, your realization by practicing in these buildings. That's why dragons are there out front that you frequently see. Now we turn to the Yong-wang Dragon-King. It was assumed in traditional society, pretty much assumed that everything has a king. Every society had a king, and like among trees, trees and plants in Korea, the red pine tree is king of all plants. And of course, among wild animals, the tiger is king of the wild animals as the apex predator, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, pretty much any classification of things, they have a king. There's a bunch of rabbits. There's got to be a rabbit king. Just nobody pays any attention to him. Perhaps rather minor, but still. So, Yong-wang Dragon-King, king of the dragons, very powerful spirit in Korea, very prime folklore deity. My main research, as many of you know, has been on Sanshin, the mountain spirit. What I would really say is number one in Korea, number one in importance. And maybe the Dragon King comes in number two, which is why I spent 3 years writing a book on it. It's really important and kind of ubiquitous in Korea, like the mountain spirit. I estimated there must be like 15,000 shrines for the mountain spirit, dragon spirit, 15,000 shrines, maybe 20,000 for the mountain spirit in this little tiny country. This is a small country. It's the size of, South Korea is the size of Indiana. And it's only 100,000 square kilometers. And there's probably 15,000 shrines for the Dragon King that can be found. It's that bad. I think I photographed 3,000 of them in the research for this book. There's a lot left to go. I just started. Okay. I don't think anybody will ever get to the end of this subject. The Chinese invented the idea of dragon kings long ago. They started with dragons 4,000 years ago at least. And the idea of dragon king is more than 2,000 years old with that. And they, with their 5 elements theory, what Koreans call ohang, look it up, the 5 elements theory of Chinese Taoism, then there are 5 dragon kings and such. Each one has a color, each one a position. They're north, south, east, and west, and center. In Chinese Taoism, there's 5 directions: north, south, east, west, center. So they believe in this. Now, obviously, from China, there's a really strong East Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, very obvious. And they knew there was some kind of Southern Ocean way down below Southeast Asia over to India, what we call the Indian Ocean and Southeast Asian passages as such. So that would be the Southern. They just assumed that there was a Western Ocean. They didn't really know about the Atlantic, way over there. But they assumed that there was, and they assumed there was a Northern Ocean. They didn't know about the Arctic Ocean, but they just assumed that way up there in the north there must be some ocean. They thought of Asia as an island surrounded by oceans. And the center one, rivers, wells, and springs. The 2 great rivers of China could be seen as the abode of the central Dragon King. Also, there's a giant lake in the middle of China called Lake Tai, very important in Chinese history. And then people assumed that the god of Lake Tai was the central Dragon King. A set of 5. This is 4 of them. Now, sometimes they only depicted 4 at temples, north, south, east, west. They didn't depict the center one. I cannot say why. All right, but there had each one, notice, a different face, different characteristics. The one that is most fierce and angry looking and has this kind of spiky beard, he's the king of the East Sea. In other words, the Pacific Ocean for the Chinese, the Eastern Dragon King, him. And he's the one that became the big deal in Korea. Obviously, as Korea is east of China and is surrounded by essentially eastern waters, around heading out rather infinitely to the east and such, this guy became, Korea did not import a system of 4 or 5, except maybe in theory, maybe some scholars and monks and such may have known about the system of 4 or 5. But in popular depiction, I find nothing before this century that ever depicted 4 or 5 or even 3 dragon kings, just one. And it's this guy. They base their iconography, as you'll see, on him, the spiky beard and the fierce kind of angry look to him, different from other gods, being quite so serious. This is one of the oldest ones I know, from the early 17th century, a great treasure in the National Museum of Korea collection. This is an assembly of guardian spirits, the Shinjung Tengwa. It's a formal icon of guardian spirits who are protecting and defending Buddhism like a volunteer army. And already in this one, the Dragon King is there, and he's quite central. In all the early depictions of these Shinjung paintings, he's very prominent in this. The mountain spirit only appears in those paintings later on, that within the last 200 years. In the earliest ones, he is front and center, and you notice quite distinctly different looking than other gods in his way. And he's got 2 of these flaming pearls on his crown. He's got 2 of them. No reason known. Okay. These are others that are kind of imitating that one. These are modern paintings that are paying tribute. It's fuzzy out of focus, I'm sorry. But paying tribute to that great classic. Then another antique from the early 1800s, showing quite different. Notice the bulging eyes, the eyes wide open, bulging, like a fish, like fish eyes, essentially. And then spiky beard and eyebrows and such, resembling coral, like coral growing in the ocean, coral and such. And just a flared, aroused looking face, certainly not very peaceful. This is another great antique. What was that? 1765 with him. Oh, wait a minute. That's there. Yes. Same one. So far. Modern set in within a assembly of guardian spirits, and looking quite characteristic in a king's robe, holding a halberd weapon. This is something quite different. He's pretty distinct. You can pick him out. You know who is the Dragon King over there. You can see by his face. He's often paired with the mountain spirit in these great paintings, which have up to 108 spirits in the painting. A really big one, like at Seoul's Jogesa downtown, 108, but may have only 49, may have some smaller number, but often the mountain spirit is there in any one within the last 150 years, and they're often paired with the mountain spirit, kind of parallel in some way. So ocean and mountains, water and mountains as kind of a yin-yang opposite. And it's also very noticeable. I have a whole section in my book showing this, 24 examples where the mountain spirit looks quite happy, like he's really enjoying himself. And the Dragon King always looks like this, looks either supremely annoyed at something or angry, pissed off, or some such. He's glowering almost always. And this is the dragon aspect. And the 2 of them side by side make quite a contrast between happy and not. Okay, here's another one with certain other strange spirits around him, and with that almost starfish looking beard. Yes. And this one where he's holding the flaming pearl, very obviously, and his hair is quite classic. Okay. Now, those are more informal depictions. This is a more formal painting that would actually be at a Yong-wang shrine, a Dragon King shrine at a temple, as a formal icon for worship ceremonies. Pretty much a classic. There's an official over here with some kind of script that he's reading or repeating some chant. The Dragon King's daughter, who we'll mention more later, is often there attending him. He's there kind of glowering, and a dragon is dancing in the sky at a distance, and the ocean over here. The Dragon King's palace is said to be under the ocean, although it's often depicted in paintings as if it's floating on the surface. A little strange, but in folklore tales and all that, it's down at the bottom floor of the East Sea of Korea off the East Coast in popular belief. The Dragon King. This is one of my personal favorite thing. I shot this in the end of 1982, that long ago, at Gyeosan Haeinsa, one of Korea's greatest temples. And just 2 years later, Great Master Songchul, the living Buddha of Korea, burned this painting. Personally, this painting and its accompanying great painting of the Sanshin, he burned them both and commanded the monks to eradicate shamanism from the temples, to stop having these folk shaman deities in Korean temples. He ordered this, the living Buddha of Korea, around 1983 or so. 83, 84, made this commandment and tried to cleanse all these shrines out of Korean Buddhist temples, mountain spirits and Chilsung star spirits and the Dragon King and such. But he failed. He died in the early 1990s, I'm thinking 93, and he was the national patriarch of Korean Buddhism. People at least had to pretend to obey him. But then after his death, all these shrines came back. But this painting itself was burned. And so I'm really glad I took that photo when I didn't even know what I was shooting. Back then, I was just beginning. And here we are. And notice the dragon up top here and the Bodhisattva of Compassion, Gwaneum, is coming in from the side, and this boy here is offering an incense burner up as a kind of offering. Okay, here's another one of his kind of glowering look, and he's holding a sprig of coral as his symbol. Coral always seemed kind of a magical thing to the ancient people. It is partly animal and partly plant, kind of in between, a living, growing thing, and kind of like many multiple colors, but then you bring them out of the ocean and they just turn bleached and white, and they clearly had an animal function to them. But people were fascinated by them, and they became kind of a sacred item, holding it like a scepter. There's another one, dragons beside him, and as if he's on a boat. Here's one. This is right here in Seoul at the Inwangsan Guksadang, a collection of very old shamanic paintings of 100 years old and more. Some of the older shaman paintings that we have in Korea. This is a Dragon King from that. Rare to see. Here's one. He's got kind of phoenixes next to his head. Not quite sure. Dragon at the bottom, and fish and turtle and all, and the flaming pearl and such. But phoenixes up on both sides. That's very unusual, kind of unique. Phoenix is the other major imaginary animal that is very much used in religious iconography, such. Okay, Dragon King. Yellow and blue, dragon, often that pairing very frequently. This is a female dragon queen. And I wish if I had time, I would show more of these. In shamanism, Korean Daoism, there's a female dragon queens. They do happen. They are available. Most everyone that you're going to 99% or more around here are men of this, but they do have women commanding the dragons sometime. Whether she's an independent ruling queen or she is his wife of the dragon, it's never clear, not made explicit. We don't know. Okay, Yong-wang is the shrines for dragon kings at temples, and it's a typical Yong-wang below a mountain spirit shrine. Inside of these are usually the spring water at the temple. The Dragon King shrine is usually present where there's a good spring of healthy water which is temples are built at places with good water. And just about every place with good water has a temple at it. Therefore, in the mountains, and Dragon King shrines are often at the water source there. So the well would be inside here, scoopers. This is one of the great classic Dragon King shrines of Korea at the Haegwangsa on the far southeast coast within Busan City, Gijang County as such, down there off the coast of Busan, a kind of unique shrine among very heavy rocks, very busy every day with worshipers and supplicants, people meditating, people praying, shamans showing up there and doing ceremonies. It's a very colorful thing to visit. There's a Dragon King statue in the main building up there. Incredible view all around. Cool place to visit. Now, in another of the very popular 33 manifestations, Gwaneum is sitting on a rocky ocean coast, believed to be the mythical Mount Polataka Island that is his main residence. According to myth from India, it said that this bodhisattva lives at a mountain called Polataka, that's the name of the Dalai Lama's residence in Tibet, Lhasa City, Tibet. Also, it's called the Potalaka Palace because the Dalai Lama is thought to be an incarnation of the Bodhisattva of Compassion. That's within Tibetan Buddhism. But his residence, and to Chinese, it's an island. And there's actually a small rocky, craggy island in China off the coast of Zhejiang province called Putoshan. And has been the residence of Guanyin and the main place where pilgrims go to worship that deity in China. And I went there in 1994. It was pretty spectacular. Great place. It's got like 7 temples on the island for that bodhisattva. Korea has 5 equivalent sites on its 3 coasts, rocky places, rocky high cliffs or something, 3 places, 5 of them that are primary destinations for this Gwaneum, the Bodhisattva of Compassion. And many pilgrims go visit these. And every one of them is really worthwhile. Many tourists go there simply because these are really beautiful. There's high rocks, temple buildings built up on the cliff, incredible views, crashing waves against the rocks. Wonderful stuff. Each one of these is really great. And I'm surprised they don't get more international tourism than they do. The government doesn't really promote these very much for anybody, but in my opinion, they really should. In the artworks of this manifestation called the Water Moon Gwanyin, or Seoul Gwaneum in Korean, Seoul Gwaneum paintings. It's a long time, for about 700 years, a traditional motif in paintings. The Dragon King's daughter, Longnu, Koreans would say Ryongnu, simply, and the boy pilgrim Sudana, which Koreans call Sungjae, Sunjae, are shown standing nearby in worship, having become disciples of this Bodhisattva, the Dragon King's daughter, and the pilgrim boy who wanders from place to place, finding these Buddhist deities within one of the major sutras. This is depicted. This is in China, the Bodhisattva of Compassion with the Dragon King's daughter and Sunjae, the boy, on the side. And this is a Chinese painting that I shot long ago with them, the daughter behind there, and Sunjae here, worshiping. Then, in popular Chinese folk tales that spread to Korea, Gwaneum rescues one of the Dragon King's children, such as a dragon prince disguised as a fish or snake from harm, showcasing his or her mercy and power. Okay. Then, as a gesture of gratitude, the Dragon King sends his daughter, Longnu, to serve as Gwaneum's attendant. So this makes the relationship here, therefore often depicted alongside her in artworks that depict the Bodhisattva of Compassion, seated on a lotus throne, perched on a rocky outcrop, or with Yong-wang, possibly one or more of his children, approaching Gwaneum in reverence, possibly offering him a yuiju pearl, or simply a precious pearl from the ocean, or a sprig of coral, offering coral to the Bodhisattva in a thankfulness. There's several stories like this. One of the primary ones is of the Dragon King's son of the Dragon King, who is then swimming as a giant fish in the ocean, a large-sized fish, enjoying himself, but then is caught by a fisherman and brought into the market and displayed. And look what we caught, this big, great fish. And the Bodhisattva of Compassion steps in and has him liberated and returned to the water, as it is a common Buddhist custom on Buddhist holidays to gather captured fish from fishermen and release them back into the water as a sign of compassion. It's a long time Buddhist practice, such a compassion for the living beings. So this being done, and then the Dragon King in gratitude is showing up to offer to the Bodhisattva, and even lets his daughter become her disciple, attendant. This is the oldest one of 14th century, the oldest depiction of this we have within Korean art. So during the 1300s, this great painting, this is in the National Museum collection, Bodhisattva of Compassion, like what I said with the adornment. See, this is a man, but you might not think so. Looking at the beautiful clothing and jewelry and all that hanging and such, it has a rather female idea to it. But then the Dragon King showing up way down here in this corner, and here amplified, the Dragon King showing up with an incense burner offering, and other figures down here of the Dragon King's family. That's the oldest we have. This is a modern reproduction of that, a modern artist doing the same painting, essentially. I got this in a Buddhist magazine. You can see the detail here of what's being offered. Yes. Now, the coastal setting emphasizes Gwaneum's role as a protector of those in peril, especially fishermen, sailors, and coastal dwellers. Okay, now obviously fishermen have a very dangerous job and a lot of fatalities, especially on the east coast of Korea. The waves have always been very rough. The sea is deep and cold. It was a very dangerous thing. And so they'd worship not only the Dragon King for safety and such, but also Gwaneum, asking for compassion, mercy, safety for the fishermen. The Dragon King's presence reinforces his dominion over the sea and ability to tame even the most powerful forces of nature, such as storms. Yong-wang's presence in these images emphasizes the connection between water and compassion, danger and protection. Okay? That's what it symbolizes, the connection there. This is an antique from Bomasa, Busan's Gumjungsan Bomasa, one of the nation's top 10 temples. This antique, about 200 years old now in its museum, with a rounding and the Dragon King here with his son offering to Gwanum. And this is the Dragon King and his son. Okay. Sudana, that pilgrim boy, the pilgrim boy going around finding deities and having a big important encounter with Gwanum, symbolizes devotion, transformation, spiritual growth. His kneeling with clasped hands like this shows humility and a readiness to learn. So an ideal for young adepts of Buddhism. Longnu, the Dragon King's daughter, represents youthful enlightenment, purity, feminine wisdom. Her pearl is said to represent the ego or worldly attachments being offered up in pursuit of liberation from delusions that cause suffering. She has a beautiful, precious pearl, and you know how young ladies are about jewelry and such, but she's offering it up, offering to give it up, to release her attachments to such material goods. Together, they symbolize that anyone, regardless of age, gender, or background, can attain wisdom and compassion through sincere devotion and proper guidance, being guided properly on the spiritual path. Okay. Seoul, Gwanum, 19th century from Los Angeles Museum, shows the Dragon King clearly with, down here, offering a sprig of coral. Again, looks kind of like a deer antler also, as if it had been taken off of a deer. Sometimes it really looks more like a deer antler than coral, and you kind of wonder if they mix them sometimes. Okay, this is a treasure, a recently designated treasure of Korea that's right here in Seoul, up in the Jongnong area of Samgaksan, right above downtown. This triad in front there with Sudana and the Dragon King with Gwanum. Okay, this is a good painting with them at the side, Dragon King and Sudana here offering prayer and such towards that, and there's a nice bird in the sky. Okay. This is maybe the most important place in Korea for the relationship of the Gwanum and the Dragon King. As such, it's Yangyang County, Naksan, Naksan-sa, Hongnyeong-am, the Red Lotus Hermitage. This is one of those 5 places that I already said, 5 places devoted to Gwanum, and maybe one of the most spectacular, and you see what I mean about spectacular, the scenery all around this whole area, this whole complex. It's just fantastic to visit, a photographer's paradise. Many people come here who are just tourists and don't care anything about religion or mythology and such, but just the scenery is fabulous. It's right above Gangneung City, north of Gangneung there, and a really lovely place. And inside the main altar of Gwanum, and then the Dragon King, both in painting and statue, right next to Gwanum and such, offering. This is busy with worshipers every single day. This is in Busan City's Dongmyeon Bulwan, a more modern Buddhist temple. The depiction of the Dragon King with a blue dragon is kind of unique, not unique, but unusual that the Dragon King here is actually riding on a dragon as he rises up to greet Gwanum. Is actually being transported by a dragon. There are other such paintings, not many. Korea is very popular, important and powerful Daoist shamanic deity Yong-wang became associated and then subordinated to, kind of a junior person in these paintings, a smaller person showing up. Buddhism is very popular, important and powerful Bodhisattva Gwaneum in a long and complicated process, starting in the ancient three kingdoms. We have written records going back for that. Folk tales and semi-official religious beliefs had already been activated in order to integrate the foreign imported religion of Buddhism. Always remember, Buddhism came from overseas, and Koreans very suspicious of anything foreign when it first shows up, and block it. Every religion, every tradition that has come, that the hermit kingdom attitudes, Buddhism into Korea's native societies, having the strongest indigenous deities like Sanchin and dragon spirits interact with the new deities in accepting and facilitating ways. By showing the Dragon King as accepting Gwaneum and offering reverence to Gwaneum, it helps Buddhism as a foreign religion become accepted by Koreans. Same thing as as I've extensively shown in my research about Sanchin, the mountain spirit, and how starting very early, the idea of Sanchin welcoming the new religion and allowing Buddhism to come in and set up on his mountain. Myths and legends like that still have very famous places associated with them, are a key part of getting Buddhism accepted in Korea as a foreign religion. Okay. Yes. Now this is in Bulguksa, the most famous temple, maybe the most touristed temple in Korea, 4 million visitors a year. Bulguksa has this magnificent painting of Gwaneum with 1,000 arms, 1,000 hands, so it can help human beings and society and nature in every possible way, help in 1,000 different ways. That's one of the depictions, but this also has the Dragon King on one side and Sudana on the other, even though it's a different manifestation. Technically, the 1,000-arm manifestation, but still, in this case, includes Dragon King over there. This is a close-up of Dragon King, looking rather peaceful for once. Doesn't look angry. Looks like he's been meditating and eating salads and taking care of himself, a little more content. And here he's offering a lotus flower. This is one of the more beneficent images of a Dragon King that you're going to find, non-threatening. Nice. That's right here in Seoul at the Hoguksa Temple up in the northwest. Okay. Getting to conclusions here. As Buddhism became supreme during the Shilla dynasty and then predominantly through the Goryeo dynasty, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas attained top status in theory, although native spirits such as Yong-wang never lost their effective popularity with 90% common people, and they continued to be key in the process of Koreanization of Buddhism. Mistake. Yes. Gwaneum came to have a strong association with sea waters, became a primary divine protector of fishermen and sailors, became prominent in inland temples as defender against nearly all of life's ills. Somewhat displacing Yong-wang and the other shamanic spirits, the public desired a merciful female deities. Despite Korea's patriarchal religious views, this figure could serve that needed as a Mother Mary figure had. Nope. Yes, Lord of the Dragons and his daughter became small figures in formal Gwaneum paintings or smaller statues on his altars, making offerings instead of receiving them. Okay, instead of receiving, but making offerings to the Bodhisattva. Okay, the Bodhisattva came to be enshrined in his own halls, that's Gwaneum, in the larger temples, almost as big as the main Buddha halls, the Gwaneum Jun in many temples, where Yong-wang usually only seen part of others' artworks and the other smaller shrines at the temple's water source. This is through the 1800s into the first half of the 1900s, phenomena. You saw just small images of Yong-wang, and often in guardian assembly paintings or in Gwaneum artworks. However, in this century, 21st, there's been some backlash on this with larger, expensive Dragon King. Not that. Yes, this. With larger, expensive Dragon King halls being built at a few temples, as we'll see in section 8. That's from my book, forget it. And still, his presence in these ways, including often appearing in modern Gwaneum icons, is prominent factor in the identity of a unique Korean Buddhism in this world today. Just to show that off, finally, something brand new just opened last year at the beginning of the spring of 2025. And I went there soon afterwards. This new building, gigantic building. That's a big Buddhist hall building. That's as big as the main Buddhist hall at most temples, bigger than the main Buddhist hall at regular temples. That's as big as the Buddha hall at a really major temple. Yeah, sorry, gigantic. And in front of it, a golden tortoise, tortoise there, golden dragons up on the shelf. These are really big. They're bronze, I guess, and it's not real gold, but a dragon pearl out in front, and the 12 zodiac animals in stone. These are life-size lined up there. This is gigantic. This is the biggest Dragon King hall ever made in Korean history. I can feel quite sure nothing even close to this has ever been built before, and it's brand new. Though you can't say this is dying or fading away or something. The temple, this is at Bomunsa off Gangwa Island on Sokmodo Island, which is just off Gangwa. There's a bridge these days connecting the islands. And such, and this, somebody gathered the money together. I mean, the temple gathered money for a decade from believers and built this gigantic hall. You know how much this cost? The wooden carpentry and the decorations and all that, and the statues outside and all. This is a many, many, many millions of dollars building, and showing that this is not going away. It's not fading. It's not disappearing, not in the least. So it just says Yong-wang Jun. This is illegal. It should say Yong-wang Gak. Gak means a shrine for lower level deities. Jun is a hall for Buddhas. The DaeHanYong is a main hall for Buddha, or Amita Jun for Amita Buddha. Jun means a real formal hall for the top level deity, not for a Sanshin mountain spirit or a Yong-wang dragon spirit. No. But this is named Yong-wang Jun. That's illegal, sort of. I mean, it's traditionally inappropriate, shall we say? But they did it. They gave it that grand name. Inside, it's too big. I can't follow. They have 5 of these. There are 5 great Dragon King statues. I could only shoot the 3 with my lens was not wide angle enough. But there's 1 more on each side, believe it. These are gigantic stone statues surrounded by lights, fantastic artworks all through it. This is one of the most amazing Buddhist shrines I've ever seen, and it's for the Dragon King. And in this case, they're doing all 5 Dragon Kings, which, again, was never in Korean tradition. Never any. I've only found 4 temples that have multiple. They're in my book. See extensive review of all this in the book. This artwork is on the side of that hall of Gwaneum with the Dragon King approaching as part of it. So see my book for many, many more examples of all the things I have said here today. And to see my book and any other contact with me to take a shot of this, just my contact details. Remember, get in touch with me on Facebook or by email or my own website. Sanshin Sun will be offering this book very soon. I think in 2 or 3 weeks, you'll be able to order to buy this book. It's going to be an ebook, PDF kind of version thing that I can email to you through Google Drop, because it has 2,000 color photos and it's 900 pages long, and I haven't found any publisher who's willing to print that. It's just too much money. They can't. And I could do it with black and white photos. They would print it. But you see these artworks. I can't have black and white. I can't stand that. No. So you're going to have to read this book on your computer. I'm sorry to the people who love physical books. That's it. We'll take some questions. Thank you. Steve.
David, you had a list of the 5 major places for the dragon shrines. One was Gwaneum on Daehan Island.
Those are 5 places, especially for Gwanse-eum Bosal. Gwaneum.
Gwaneum is on CNN's 10 must-see places in Korea this year.
Really? Well, congratulations to them.
You go to the Daehan Island, Germany village.
Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah.
Gwaneum is on the northwest
Yeah.
side of the island.
Right.
And it's quite a hike up from the closest parking lot, but the walkway is very well done, so it's a good walk.
Perched on a cliff, like 600 meters straight up above the ocean with giant boulders. It's mind-blowing. I have always thought that Bodhisattva should be globally famous, should be internationally famous. It's so spectacular. So congratulations to CNN for finally waking up on that. All right. Sure.
Sometimes I dreamed of the river last night. Then must be full of today. So you please sometime there, or I think today will be the full day. You please explain more detail. I dreamed
Good, a dream?
I dreamed of the river last night.
Oh, yeah, the dream of a dragon last night. Well, this is for Jeremy. Yes, in a dream, well, let's say there are several symbols that can be very good luck if you dream about it. And such, a dragon is certainly one. It's great auspicious power. It could mean that you're going to accomplish something really great. There's a special mythology. Check Jeremy's book about Oriental birth dreams, about if a woman dreams of a dragon while she's pregnant, with a boy especially, has a boy inside of her and dreams of a dragon, it means he's going to become a great man, it's a very auspicious kind of dream. And there are certainly other things like dreaming of pigs means you're going to get rich, going to get a lot of money, such like that. Oh, well, later. We're out of time, unfortunately. We'll get into that. You can share later with us when we go out to have a beer, details of your dream. I'm sure it's quite auspicious question. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were black and white. Those are colors. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Red is south and blue is east on that. You'll find it. Yes. They have kind of a turquoise here, but that should be more of like a Royal Navy blue classically, and that should be white, considered white. These have meanings, like the mountains in Seoul, Bugaksan behind the palace, that's the Black Turtle Mountain, and the Inwangsan to the west is the White Tiger Mountain, and Namsan in the south is the red Phoenix Mountain, and then the ridge by Dongdaemun is the Blue Dragon direction, and the hill in the center where the Temple of Heaven is running up to Myeongdong Cathedral, that's the Yellow Cow hill of the center, Yellow Ox. So yes, those have designated meanings. It all gets very complicated when you start assigning the different meanings and moving from system to system. There's also the very simple thing of simply blue and yellow as east and west, which is frequently seen in temples and palaces and other manifestations. And that's not really, that's not connected to the 5 system. It's just a different system.
So it also looks like they might all be associated with different seasons.
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question about the dragon of the South Sea, the red one. I think I know most about him, and I didn't know anything else he said tonight, because he's a character in the Pansori play Sugunga.
Oh, yes.
Where he tries to eat a rabbit's liver.
Right.
So
that's one of Korea's most famous folk tales, which of course I didn't have time to get into tonight, of the rabbit riding on a turtle to the undersea palace of the Dragon King. So the Dragon King can get his liver as medicine, and very common. Also in the Shimcheong Pansori, which out of the 5 great Pansoris, 2 of them have Dragon King as a significant figure. In the Shimcheong one, Dragon King receives the sacrifice of the girl Shimcheong and then redeems her, brings her back to earth out of recognition of her virtue. Big part of the story. So yeah, it's very solid in the culture.
Do you think Yong-wang in China and Korea were influenced by the Nagas, Makudites of Bihu?
Oh, there's a whole chapter of my book about that. It's complicated, but yes, definitely extremely strong connection. The Nagas of India came to China. The Chinese don't like snakes very much. They don't. In India, snakes are big deities. In China, they're rather low in the ranking of animals. So they just changed the Nagas into dragons for all the Buddhist purposes. See my book, got a whole chapter about that. Yes.
You mentioned Dongyo. Have they finished the renovations and reopened the shrine?
Yeah, last time I was there, it was all open and beautiful. Yeah, it's all done. Dongmyo's looking great. Yeah, that dragon painting is still distinct there. Okay, we got to stop. Such a bit.
Just one last quick question. And do you cover dragons and feng shui?
Yeah, yes, the relationship of, I didn't get into that deeply. No space. I mentioned it. The way that geomancers use like a lying down dragon ridge or a sitting dragon mountain or flying dragon, the way the different geomantic landscapes that they name after dragons acting a certain way is a very important part of Korea's Pungsujiri, the Korean system of that. I couldn't go deeply, though. I only had 900 pages. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.